Welcome to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja based photographer Tabishima Ayede. Today, I want to talk about something that I have a little bit of personal history with, and the personal history goes as far back as 1985 or 1986. That was when my mom ditched NTA, where she had been working for a while, and she moved on to the Hilton Hotel. Well, I think then it used to be called Nikon Noga. I think Nikon Noga Hilton Hotel. I think now it's called Hilton Transcorp or something like that. It's gone through so many names over the years. Anyway, at the time she was their first PR manager, and she was at the helm of a lot of campaigns that they launched at the time. I think the initial one being the Let's Spoil You a Little campaign, and of course I was a little one at the time, and that was the beginning of lots of interesting conversations that I would have with my mom about public relations, customer service, and those sorts of things. In fact, I remember our Let's Spoil You a Little arguments to be the most interesting and lively of the discussions that we had at the time, because she came home one day and it's like, you figured it out. This is going to be the campaign. Let's spoil you a little. And in my little boy way of thinking, I thought, no, that's wrong. Why should you spoil people? And, at the time she tried to explain, but I couldn't make the connection between spoiling someone and the idea of being pampered in luxury. Anyway, so another set of arguments that we would have around roughly the same time was the idea of the customer is always right. I can't remember how it came about or when she said it, but to my little boy mind at the time, that didn't make sense. I didn't see how the customer was going to be right regardless of whatever it is that they said. And I'm sure she tried to explain it to me in a proper and professional manner as best as she could, but to my little boy brain, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I didn't see how, no matter what the circumstances was, the customer was always going to be right. And so for those of you who have professional opinions about this, I'm sure you'd say I was a little boy, and so because of that I didn't understand the proper context and the full ramifications of the idea. But anyway, that's what started my long history with this whole term. The customer is always right. And so that's what I want to look into today. Is the customer always right? Now, of course, since it's not something that I was able to come to a nice resolution with back when I was a little boy, of course, it's something that has followed me over the years, especially in my entree into business. And okay, yeah, so bottom line, that's the personal history about the subject for today. Is the customer always right? The reason why I remembered it was because we also, in this household right now, when I say this household, I mean me as a married dude now with my wife and with my own kids. We had, we went through an experience with with my older son's school that gave me pause for thought, and I remember that conversation that I had with my mother a long time ago. And the summary is, I'm not going to. I'll hold off on my opinion until the end when I examine a couple of things. But this is a summary of what happened basically. So we all know that because of the COVID situation, schools are trying to get classes on with Zoom, and of course that's the whole format that my son's school is using. So Zoom classes, and one day my wife had problems logging into the Zoom session, and after she fiddled with the link for a while, she figured, oh, the link is broken. So she copied and pasted and joined it together, and she was able to sign in. And of course, she told the teacher, and the teacher said, no ma, the link was not broken. And she started coming up with all sorts of excuses. What kind of what these things called? Browsers, yeah. What kind of browser were you using? Were you trying to use it on the phone or on the desktop? And my wife's position was, look, I'm fairly computer literate. The link was broken. But anyway, she wouldn't admit. And the thing happened the next day, and they went through the same drama, and it happened for the third day, and they went through the whole drama again. Only this time the difference was, as soon as my wife complained, she refreshed the page, and then magically the link wasn't broken anymore. And then the teacher just sent a text message saying it's not broken now. Of course, we know that what happened was, I guess now she finally caught wind. She rectified the error, refreshed the page, but wasn't willing to admit that she was wrong, and she said the link is broken now. And in the conversation that happened afterwards with my wife, these are some of the things that we discussed. The customer is always right, and yada yada yada. So today, that's what we're looking at: is the customer always right? Now, in my own opinion, is the customer always right? I don't think so. I would say no. The reason why I say the customer isn't always right is because you are the professional. Now, today, this is a podcast for wedding industry professionals, and so you, Madam Wedding Planner, or Mr. Wedding Photographer, or Madam Cake Baker, or Mr. Makeup Artist, the customer isn't always right. You are the one who is the professional, and you are the one who has the expertise. So the customer isn't always right. However, that's the caveat to my own take on these things. Even though you're the professional and you're the one with the expertise, the customer always has the right to be heard whenever there is a problem, when they are dissatisfied with something. The first step I think we need to do is to listen to their concerns, and we need to affirm their concerns. That is one good thing that I've taken out of the sales training that I've been doing so far. Some of the classes online with Grant Cardone, and some of the podcasts that I listen to. This whole idea of working with client and customer motivations, and so affirming people as you go along, extremely important. So listen and affirm their concerns. After that, you have to take responsibility. A salesperson always takes responsibility, even if you are not the person who caused the problem. After that, you have to qualify or discover and drill down to isolate the pain point. We need to find out the key reasons why the customer is dissatisfied with the current transaction. For those of you who are listening for the first time, that's probably a mouthful to handle. But if you scroll back down in the timelines, you see older episodes where I've spoken about qualification frameworks. And basically, a qualification framework is a question-based method that you come up with for asking questions to dig to the bottom of just to get to the bottom of what it is that the customer needs, the problem that the client is trying to solve, which is important in sales, because as sales people and as marketers, we're trying to solve problems, and you need to find out what the real problem is that you're solving. There's no point in beating around the bush and going round 360 only to discover that you're back at square one and you hadn't addressed what the main concern was in the first place. Okay, now after we drill down to find out what the main pain point is, the reason why they are unhappy, we need to come up with a proposal. So Mr. and Mrs. Bride and Groom, okay, I think I understand that this is the problem, and this, in my professional opinion, is how I think we can address it. We need to do A, B, C, and D. Are you cool with that? Yes, we're all cool. And then the next step will be to communicate and follow through with the plan. So this is how I think we're going to achieve it, and you make sure everybody knows, whether that's verbally, although after I have verbal conversations, I always follow up with a phone call and then text message, just to make sure that we're tracking pace. So I would send the text messages that okay, we agreed that I was going to do this, we're doing step A today, step B is going to be on Friday, step C will be on Wednesday, and of course follow through and update them as we work through what the plan is. So communicate and follow through with the plan. Then after that, after the whole process is over, we need to seek feedback to be sure that the problem was adequately resolved. The reason why this is important is because we need to make sure that they're satisfied. And of course, for those of you who've been listening from the beginning, it's a key part of the selling process that when we're done and we make sure that everybody is happy and satisfied. We try and see how we can get repeat business from the client or get a referral. And it's an absolute no-no to try and get a referral if there is still something simmering under the surface and the client isn't indeed 100% happy with how everything went. So going back to the Zoom scenario, I'm sure some of you are thinking, clearly in this case my wife was right, so why would you say that the customer isn't always right? Well, maybe it's semantics, maybe it's not, but let's follow the game plan that I've drawn up and you'll see that it's a valid one regardless of whatever the facts are at the end of the day. So Mrs. ABC, okay, well, sorry that the link didn't work yesterday and it hasn't worked today. He asked a couple of more questions, so maybe all those questions about what browser you're using, whether it's the tablet or the phone, all those are important. But then after that, you take responsibility. I'm sorry, Miss ABC, that this happened at XYZ school. We want to make sure that you guys are that our students are well taken care of and our happiness is your utmost concern. And so because of that, I, Mrs. so and so, take full responsibility of the situation, and I'm going to make sure that we work through this until we resolve it adequately and we make sure that students are learning properly and that you and your husband are satisfied. How does that sound? Of course, most parents are reasonable, and at this point, they won't be so upset because they're not being challenged over the situation. Then that is where the next thing is, where you go into that whole what operating system, what tablet, did you check the message on WhatsApp, or did you try to go through the link on the Class Dojo? Class Dojo is it's like the central app that it's kind of like a communications hub. No, let me say it's more like social media for schools, if you could put it that way. So they put up information that they want parents to know, and links that we need, study resources and stuff like that. So in this case, after asking all those questions, if they snooped around and they found out indeed that the link was broken, then in line with taking responsibility, you would have to admit, oh, I'm sorry, Miss ABC, yes, you're right. The problem was actually from our own end. To make sure that this doesn't happen again, this is what we're going to do. Our teachers haven't had to use Zoom before, because before the COVID, we prioritized face-to-face interactions. We're going to run another set of trainings for our teachers for the next 3 days to make sure that they're properly acquainted with how Zoom is supposed to work. The first session is going to be on Monday. We know that you're a working professional. If you would like to join the Zoom session and offer a few hints, we would like that. Is this something you would look forward to? Some parents might say yes, some parents might say no, but bottom line is you have come up with some sort of a plan, you have communicated it. After the teachers are done with the training exercise, you send another message out to the parents saying, with the problems that we've had over Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, this is what we've tried to do to redress the problem. The training session with the teachers are done. We regret that this happened and we hope that this doesn't happen again, and please feel free to let us know if there are any more problems with the Zoom sessions in the school. And then of course, like I said, the follow-up process, seeking feedback. So maybe you call the parents a week later to find out how are things going. Zoom sessions going okay, no more cases of broken links or drop connections or stuff like that. So it doesn't have to go exactly how I said it should, but you can see how handling it this way is a lot better than being combative right at the get-go, or just assuming that the customer is always right and then just bending backwards and doing whatever it is that the customer wants. Now, a case that I remember quite vividly in the wedding space about how this applies was for a wedding that we did last year. I think the planner then was I can't remember the guy's name. Uh, but everybody calls him Akin. I can't remember his outfit. I don't know if it's, yeah, I think it's Alvina or so. Yeah, I think it's Alvina. So at the time, I wasn't handling photography, but I was with my video crew, my partner Shogun, and we were there, and we overheard the ruckus that was going on. The bride wanted particular kind of chandelier to hang from the ceiling, rather than the chandelier that was at, I think it's BMO events. Yeah, I think it's BMO events in Wuse 2. It's a marquee there. And so, Yinka was of, sorry, not Yinka, what's his name again? Akin was of the opinion that that chandelier would be too heavy and the marquee doesn't have the structural, gosh, I don't know the terms, the structural, I don't know, wherewithal or whatever to support that kind of weight. They brought the manager in. The manager thought he could handle that kind of weight, but eventually, Akin had to put his foot down because he is the professional. So he didn't just say, "Okay, the client is always right. Let's go ahead. Let's do it," because I mean, look at the stakes. If the thing were to crash during the ceremony, it's not just a loss of reputation, but there's also the possibility of grievous harm that could come to people who are at the venue. And he put his foot down. Of course, we, the video crew, were there, and so we communicated with the lighting people, and we came up with a compromise. We were going to have a truss erected. Trusses are those huge steel things. For those of you who attend music concerts, those huge steel things at the edge of the stage that support the lights, those disco lights. So a truss with 4 points was mounted. The lights were going to be moved in a whole lot closer, change some of the lighting sequences, and the chandelier was going to be supported off of that. Instead. But basically, it was a similar sort of process that they all ran through. Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, Mr. and Mrs. Bride and Groom, we know that this is what it is that you want. These are the concerns. These are the concerns regarding health and safety. These are the options available: option A, option B, option C. Given the last minute, whatever, what do we think is the most cost effective solution that we can reach? And then he called together other members of the team and other event professionals like the video crew, who are technically speaking not part of his own team. When they brought together the relevant heads, and there was a compromise that was reached at the end of the day, and so aesthetically everything was fine, structurally everything was fine, no health and safety concerns. So basically that's what my own view about this whole thing of the customer is always right. So is the customer always right? No, I don't think the customer is always right. However, the customer should always be listened to and should always be validated at all times. You use questioning techniques to drill down to the bottom of the problem and then see how you can address the client's interest. So, yeah, that's it for today. As usual, for those of you who have any questions, comments, or who take issues with anything that I've said so far, can hit me up on email. That's ayede.taver@gmail.com. That's ayede.taver@gmail.com. Or you can call, WhatsApp, Telegram, what else? At 08064662140. Okay, speaking of the what else, I didn't realize that Truecaller has a texting option, so that's might be something that you guys want to try out, because some of the couples that I've been negotiating with recently, it's something that they've taken to. So I had no idea that there was a chat feature, so you guys might want to check that out and explore as well. Before I sign off, I watched an interesting movie today, and I think those of you who think the future is female should watch it. It's called Harriet. It's about Harriet Tubman. Underground Railroad helped a lot of slaves back before the Civil War escape to the north, and then later on to Canada to find freedom. I just thought was an interesting movie. So for those of you who think the future is female, you enjoyed Avengers Endgame and let's see what else, Black Panther. This might be something that you will enjoy as well. However, not as many explosions in this one. So if you're looking for a kick-ass action movie, then maybe you shouldn't be watching this. It's called Harriet, and it was on Showmax. So you guys have a wonderful night. I'll catch you at the next episode. Thank you very much for listening.